And then I don't know if you can talk about, specific guys, but it feels like a lot of the incoming transfers that you brought in can play multiple positions, maybe have a little bit more versatility than you've had in years past. Is that something that you specifically look to do this summer?
Well, we needed to obviously get some outfielders, and we knew that. Maybe an infielder or two. We did that. We'll see how that all turns out. Again, I like some of our freshman infielders. It's hard to say, yeah, you can have a freshman starting at this position in the infield because it takes a little time to develop there. But you never know. You never know how that's going to go. Sometimes you get them here and you're going, wow, they've continued to develop since we committed them, signed them. And now we look down the road 5 months to see if they'll be ready to play. But yeah, I would have to say that most of the guys that we brought in are guys that can play all three outfield positions. And usually you got guys that are corner guys or a guy that you can say, yeah, he can play center. I feel like we got a couple guys that can play center. And I do feel like there's a couple of guys that could move around in the infield, play different positions, and maybe an outfielder or two that could actually uh, play in the infield or an infielder that can play in the outfield. We did that with Caden Wallace a few years ago when he was a freshman because we had a really good returning third baseman and there was a spot open in right. He jumped on it. He started pretty much all year. And then the next year he went back to third base and he was a, top 30, 40 player pick that year. So it was good.
Jackson Fuller.
Good to see you, Dave. As far as Cahillo, I know he's playing in the outfield a little bit up in the Cape. How important is that for his development, for your team to add that layer to Cahillo's projections moving forward?
Yeah, really good question. So we sent him out to play. He he uh, he played a lot of outfield. You probably haven't kept up with it the last few days, but his hands bothered him a little bit. I'm going to blame it on the home run derby. There's no bone broken there. I was a little concerned when I saw that it went into extra swing, so to speak, and the way he buggy whips that bat through the zone. There's a lot of force and stress there. So uh, he's, he hadn't been home since Christmas. So we said it's time for you to go home. And uh, yeah, that's the only update I have on it. That there's no broken bones, no hamate, but it was sore. I think the first game after the All Star game, he was in the lineup and they scratched him. He didn't play the next day or the next day. What's wrong? Here we go. You're going home. So he got a lot of games in. When I was out there, I talked with their coaches about his defense. They said he really had gotten better and he was working at it. Uh, so hopefully, for him and the team, but really for him, that he can play in the field. And I really believe that he will be able to. He can really throw and he's a really good runner, especially underway. Maybe not right out of the chute, but underway, he's a good runner. But it's really for me to see him go out there and swing the bat, get his confidence back, and hit like he has. It made a few adjustments, and it's worked for him. He had a good summer.
Vahiva made such a big jump from sophomore to junior year. I mean, are you like obviously they're brothers, there's a lot of similarities. Do you envision like there are some things that maybe Kuhio can learn from Vahiva's path that he could maybe kind of copy some of those things?
I, I think so. I think any player should learn from other players that are talented, how they go about their business every day, their work ethic, the way they act and talk to the other players. You got to learn, and you learn by watching a lot of times. And then, Cahillo's situation, I mean, honestly, when you really look at it, you got your big brother doing all this great stuff and getting all this publicity, and then he's getting called into it too because they're brothers. I think he had to play under a lot of pressure this last year, in my opinion, and it was all self-inflicted, but it was still there, trying to keep up with Big Brother, and now he's going to be one of the main guys, and I think that he'll continue to be great, and I'm excited for what happens for him his junior year.
You mentioned these two guys, Tate and Steele. What have they done like this summer to kind of put up these great numbers, improve, and how much like confidence do you have in both those guys coming back and just being huge parts of the staff next spring?
Yeah, I think with Tate, it's just about keeping his velocity and locating just a little bit better. He's always been a good strike thrower. He's got good stuff. He just would make mistakes ahead in the count, and they would hit it. They would square it up, and maybe maybe just going out and gaining more experience, obviously having more confidence, and just walk back in the door knowing you're a guy. You're a junior. It's your third year. Nothing's new. Let's get better and focus on that. Quit worrying or looking over your shoulder. Just go pitch and be a good leader. And I think we're going to get that out of him. And then with Steele, I mean, honestly, I had him passing by some guys in our bullpen at the end of the year. If we would have had a tight situation in Omaha, I had no problem pitching him. And if it didn't go well, I'd have no problem sleeping about, through the summer because I knew his stuff was good. He worked hard and he deserved it. He's a no nonsense kid and he just works and he loves being a Razorback in-state kid. And he's gone out to summer ball and they love him. I mean, they said they could pitch him everywhere, but he's been just nails at the end of the game. He throws that heavy ball, that sinker. He's been pitching 93, mid 90s. Got that slider. And, the good thing about him, when he's not striking you out, he can get you a double play ball. And I like that a lot. So he'll be a big part of our staff. We just got to keep those guys healthy like all of them.
Last one for me, Coach. Just to follow up on Nolan, do you envision he can participate in fall at all, or is it going to be a wait till winter and spring kind of thing?
Yeah, so he won't be able to swing the bat any live. I think before fall's over, it might be a situation where he can swing the bat, but maybe it's on with soft toss or just the same speed. You can't get fooled and hurt yourself. I think he'll be able to get live at bats before the holidays. We'll have some of our pitchers throw live, say, November inside or wherever, and he'll start getting at bats there. He'll catch up with the bat. Obviously it's his throwing arm, throwing shoulder. That's my biggest concern. He's an outstanding fielder, tremendous range. As soon as we can get him throwing game speed, we will. He'll do all the drill work, the rehab. I'll have him in some of the defensive drills where he's just fielding. Maybe the drills where there's not much chance of him falling and hurting himself, so to speak. If I get permission on that, I'll have him catching balls at double play balls, work on getting it out of his glove, things like that, footwork. But, the live scrimmage, live hitting, I don't think you'll see him this fall, but I guarantee you'll see him right in the middle of it. He'll be there every day. He'll rehab when we're not practicing because we want him to be there to see it and lead. And we'll do everything we can to get him ready to go by the beginning of the season.
Dudley, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, good to see you.
You
Did,
do.
did you feel, were you surprised that Landon Schaefer and Carson Brumbaugh got through, or did you know,
Yeah.
that? How do you feel about that freshman class coming in?
Feel really good about the freshman class coming in. In this new era of Division I baseball, college sports, or whatever you want to call it, man, if you can get good freshmen in your program that you can build around in the future, it's just the way to do it. We've said it, the Gackles of the world, Gibblers on the mound, those guys that that if they're healthy, they're going to help you from the time they walk in the door until they leave, hopefully after, when they get drafted. With Brumbaugh and Schaefer, I mean, they both could have signed if they would have had a number that was lower. Schaefer, it was probably a little more touch and go, athletic, can play infield, can play outfield. We're going to let him do both. Brumbaugh kind of in the same boat, tremendous arm. I mean, he could pitch for us if he wanted to. He could throw the ball 97 off the mound and, good defender. Again, with the freshman, it usually comes down to the bat. If you're going to play every day, you got to be able to hit a little bit. Obviously, they're going to hit. It's going to be, are they going to hit at this level? even the great freshmen that have come through here have had streaks. I remember, and I won't mention the name, but we had a player a couple years back that struck out 7 times in a row. And we just looked at him in the dugout, and I walked in the dugout, and I think everybody was waiting to see what I would say. It was in the fall. And I walked in, I said, "Hey, you're not the first guy that struck out 7 times in a row. It's just the way it is up here." And everybody busted out laughing because they knew I'd been counting, and everybody else had as well. And that guy ended up being an All-American, super high pick, and in AAA, double big leagues, whatever, if he can stay healthy, But the young hitters, it's tough. You got to be able to hit that super hard slider, and you get pitched backwards at this level. You're not getting 3-1 fastballs anymore. You're getting a 3-1 slider or a changeup, and you're going to get probably the same pitch on if it goes to 3-2. I'm not going to get that heater that much. And but I'm really happy they got through. We have a couple other guys that one other guy that I know, there was one team that loved him, but he held strong and said, "I'm going to college. I love it here. He's already here working out," and he didn't even get picked. So it's good to see that.
Also, with the new roster cap, I'm guessing you had to have some tough conversations. Just talk about that element of things.
Yeah, it's tough. There was a little bit of a loophole with you get to take a few extra players. It's a 1-year deal, and I won't try to explain it, but we can have a few extra guys on the roster and they actually don't count, but they count, which you figure it out. They count, they can play, but they don't count on your 34 for 1 year. But yeah, there was some tough conversations. There's a couple of guys that once the draft was 100% over and we knew what we had coming in. I mean, because we didn't know if we were going to get decimated or not, but we got some guys through, and we just had to let them know. And they'd already been informed a little bit, or they knew they didn't have a great high school career at the end, or whatever the situation may have been. That the chances were slim and none, and let's do this now instead of at semester. Just really, in many ways, doing them a favor, believe it or not. But yeah, there were a couple of those, and it's difficult. The rules have changed the way things are. So, we feel good about the roster we have. You look at the transfer portal. There's some really good players out there, but maybe not as many, or a couple, three of those superstar guys that had really good numbers where they were pitching wise. We didn't get some of those guys. Other teams did. But we feel good about the guys we got.